Hey everyone, it's Miss A. I am just wanting to take a second to explain some things that we're doing in school right now for parents that want to help their kids at home. I know there's always lots of questions about the content and how best to help your student. So I'm going to just talk about the main points in our units right now for reading and math and content reading. So I'm just going to show you some examples, and the main reason I want to do this in video form, not only to explain it, but I'm also going to say when is a good time to pause. So I'm going to hold some documents up to where you can see them, and that'll be good places for you to just pause and kind of look at these documents without having to keep up with a lot of papers when you're trying to help your student. So the first thing is our math. So our math unit right now is multiplication, so the kids are starting multiplication. And I get a lot of questions every year about how do I help my kid with multiplication. Are flashcards good? Are having them do, twos one week and fours one week, having them sit down and memorize our facts? What is Common Core? What is that way? I get lots and lots of questions, so I just wanted to make sure that I gave you some type of resource in this video to kind of know what we teach the kids and how you can best help them. So for multiplication, in a nutshell, the most important thing that kids need to understand about multiplication is that it's all about equal groups. So the kids being able to see what a multiplication equation actually means is super, super important. So I drew a little picture here. So right here I have 4 times 3 equals 12. So I have the equation here, but then up here I actually have a drawing that would match up with it. This looks very similar to what some of the kids might actually draw when they are solving a multiplication problem. So one of the biggest points that they need to understand is that 4 stands for 4 groups. So here you'll see 4 boxes where we have our 4 groups. That 3 stands for that there's 3 things inside of each of those groups. And the word each is really a key word when you're talking about the multiplication and the equal groups. It's not just 4 plus 3. The kids have been so used to adding and subtracting in first and second grade, and when they see those numbers, a lot of them think that the addition sign is interchangeable with the multiplication sign, and so we have to just make sure we're reinforcing that we are dealing with equal groups over and over again. And if you look down here at the bottom, this is called repeated addition, so the kids will know that term. That is another strategy for them to solve multiplication problems. So say your child has 4 times 3 and they do not skip count well by 3s or 4s. They can turn this multiplication equation into an addition problem, a repeated addition. And a lot of the kids are way more comfortable with that starting out because that's what they're used to doing, is adding up numbers. So if they're using repeated addition, it's super, super, super important for them to understand that we are adding the number 3 4 times. That's the huge thing we're trying to connect here, is that this is equal groups over and over again. So we have the number 3 and we're adding it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And that matches up with our equation here. They also will learn and should know, and if they haven't, will be practicing more. They also will find that they could reverse that and they can actually add the number 4 3 times. So they could have 3 4s down here and it would be the same thing. So that's a strategy that a lot of kids use for starting out with multiplication, is drawing the pictures and using repeated addition. Eventually the kids will learn to remember a lot of these facts. They'll memorize these facts. There's nothing wrong with that. I have a lot of parents that say, they're not allowed to learn the way that we learned with memorizing multiplication and things like that. And what majority of that is that when they first start, they need this foundation of what multiplication really means. And once they have that and they have all these strategies and they're coming across these facts more and more often, in the future, if a kid worked this problem out, they're probably going to see 4 times 3 in another problem, and they're just going to know that it's 12. And when we get into division and things like that, they're going to already know missing factors because they know these facts. So I don't want anyone to think that memorizing facts is wrong or bad, or that we discourage that. We just want to make sure before they start doing that they are really having this base understanding of the equal groups and having several strategies to work those problems out when they're not able to skip count. Skip counting is a way this week that we're actually learning to solve multiplication, so they can actually skip count by threes to solve something like this, or fours. So we're working on that. That's going to be another strategy they can add. So several strategies, but if you want to take a minute just to pause here, this would be a good place to pause where you can kind of see what strategies look like and the language we're using with them, that these numbers that we're multiplying together are factors, and that the answer to a multiplication problem is called a product. So this would be a good place to pause there. And the next thing I'm going to hold up is the family letter, and the kids will actually be bringing these home with them, about our unit. And this is a really good place to pause here to get an overview of the unit. And on here you're going to see their goals, like what we want them to be able to do and what that kind of looks like. So again, this is just a really good screen to pause on, and we will send this home with the kids too, so you can see that. So that's pretty much what we're working on in math. And next I want to move on to reading. So you'll be getting a letter this week about the kids taking the BOG test, which is the beginning of grade test that will be compared to the end of grade test. And basically what I tell the kids is, at the end of the school year, when you take the end of grade test, there is a list of standards that the state has decided that third graders need to be able to do. So we have all year long to learn the standards, so we learn them one at a time. And so the one that we are working on this week, and one we'll work on for a long time, this is really our base standards, super important for them. This is like their foundation for this standard. So this week we're working on this standard, and it says that students should be able to ask and answer questions referring to the text for answers, and you'll see in orange it says using evidence. The kids have learned, one of our words of the day was evidence. They know that evidence means they have to show proof. This is this can be super easy, or it can be the biggest battle to get kids to be able to go back into a text, that it's not impressive to read an entire text and remember what the answer is. That is just a no-go here. We want to make sure that they can go back and locate the answer, because remembering what they heard or what they read is a little bit different than them being able to actually go in and retrace where they read and find the proof, the evidence. So this is kind of like our base standard. Standards get a little bit more intricate. They require a little bit more skill over the school year, but this is really that foundation we want to lay with them. So one of the main things that you can do at home is when kids are reading, if you go back behind them and ask them questions, because I have a lot of parents that say that they, will ask their kids questions after they read. That's fantastic. When they answer you, make them put their finger on where they found the answer or the evidence that they're using to come up with their answer. I explained to our cohort A students today that this standard is about putting your finger on it and saying, I know that this is the answer because it says it right here. I'm going to show you an example in just a second. So this is another place you might want to pause. This is our standard of the week. And so this is just an example article from today from cohort A kids. So you can see here that when we answered questions together as a class, you will see that the answer to number 1 is here. It's circled and it has a number 1. Number 2 is circled, it has a number 2, and so on and so on. So when students turn in any kind of reading article on paper like this that they're able to do, this is the standard that I'm looking for to know that they can actually do this first standard that says that they should be able to refer to the text for evidence. That's what this is. And the kids are usually able to do it with no problem if they can read the text. It's just a matter of getting them used to having to go back in and actually do it. Every single year, that's kind of an uphill battle with some students. They read through, they think they remember, and then they pick their answers, and that's just not what this standard is asking them to master. So we want to make sure that when you're home with them and you're asking them questions or they're doing work, that you are actually having them physically put their finger and say, this is where I found the answer, or this is why I think that's the answer. So like my first question to them today was, what was Mindy doing in the kitchen? What was she getting ready for? So we circled, she was getting ready for her birthday party. So I was walking around, the kids had their finger on it and they had it circled so I could kind of quickly see if they were able to go in and find it. So that's a huge standard for this unit that we will be doing that I kind of wanted to take a second to explain. And that's just something, that's a part of our day that we do content reading, and that's when I tell the kids, like, this is the exact time of our day that I'm going to teach you the standards that you need to know to become a better reader. So that's just something at home that you can do to help them out. The other thing that I sent out on my Remind, and I think everyone got, was the poster for Too Easy, Just Right, or Too Easy, Just Right, or Too Hard. When kids are starting to bring books home, or if they have books at home, it's really, really important that they are reading just right books. So they've had a whole lesson on this at school as well. But books that are too easy are books that they are reading, they're flying through, and in 2 minutes they're saying, I'm done. The too hard books are the ones that you know are above their level and they are just looking at the pictures or they're staring at the words. But if they can't tell you anything about the book, then that's way, way, way too hard. And one thing I just wanted to make sure I got to explain is a just right book does have words that kids don't know. And that is where the challenge comes in, and that's where they're working on their brains getting smarter, is what I tell them. If you know all the words in the book in a Too Easy book, your brain's not growing, you're not learning any new words. If they're so hard you can't read them, that's not helping either. So another way that you can really help at home is just monitoring their book choices, what they're reading, and just making sure that it's something that is challenging them. They can ask you for help. They can have to decode words and things like that, but it shouldn't take them a really, really long time to read one page where they're just exhausted at the end and they can't really tell you what they read about. And those really quick, easy books are just not helping them to grow their vocabulary or their reading skills. But on the other side of that, I remind them, but I want to remind, everyone that it is okay to read a book that's too easy. It's okay to attempt a book that's too hard. I love literacy a lot, and I want the kids to have that love for books, and so I never want to discourage them if their favorite book is something that's too easy for them. I don't want them to never be able to read those books. But when they are doing that valuable reading time at home and you are questioning them and you're helping them, have them talk to you about what a Just Right book is, and you guys can kind of decide together if what they have is just right or not. That way they're getting that valuable time. And if they don't have physical books, they can also read on Epic. If you are not able to find something on Epic that is a Just Right book for your student, because they do start at kind of a Lexile level that is close to third grade level. So if your child's not quite there yet and you're having issues finding those Just Right books, please let me know. Send me a message on Remind and we can see what we can get for you so that your student has what they need to read at home. So if you have any questions about this unit or anything in this video, just send me a message.